17 choosings, and not once had my wolf stirred. I had sat through them all, the candles, the stone hall, the long parade of names read aloud by Councilman Brent in his dry, careful voice. Each ceremony ran the same. The women entered. My wolf settled lower in my chest. The women left. I thanked the council and returned to my study, and the hollow place in me that everyone called patience went on feeling like nothing at all. Tonight was the 18th. The hall was warm with candle glow and cold air pressing through the stone. I sat in the chair they placed for me at the north end. Not a throne, never a throne in the choosing hall. The old custom required a plain chair so the bond could land without ceremony interfering, and watched Brent unroll the names. 11 women this season. He read each one in order, and the women entered one at a time, passed before me, and exited through the far door. I searched myself each time, as I always did. Silence. Every time. My wolf did not so much as lift his head. He was on the 10th name when he paused. I noticed the pause because Brent did not pause. He had been doing this for 23 years, and he moved through the list with the precision of a man who has never once doubted the value of the task. A pause meant something was different. He cleared his throat. "There is an 11th name," he said, "added to the rolls this week at the petition of Elder Corin. I must note, before she enters, that the council has reservations." He glanced at me. "The woman is known in the lower districts. She is considered willful." Someone behind me shifted. I heard a low murmur from the assembly. "Unmarriageable," Brent added, with the particular tone of a man who has already decided the sentence. "No alpha of standing would want a mate who cannot be managed. We added her to the rolls out of courtesy to Elder Corin. We do not expect her to pass." I said nothing. I had learned, across 17 choosings, that saying nothing was the only dignified response to the things the council said. The door at the south end opened. She walked in the way people walk when they have been told the verdict before the proceeding begins, and have decided to appear anyway. Not slow, not fast, no hesitation at the threshold, which was what most women showed. A held breath, a gathered skirt, a moment of composing. She did not compose. She was already composed. She came in the way water comes into a still room, without announcement, and changing the quality of the air. Her dress was plain, not poor, plain. Linen, well kept, the deep gray blue of the northern hills. Her hair was pinned without adornment. She was not performing humility, and she was not performing pride. She was simply herself, walking forward, and she held her chin level. My wolf, who had not moved in 18 choosings across 11 years, raised his head. I did not show it. I sat very still and watched her cross the floor. She did not look at me, not yet. She was watching the council, the way you watch something you expect to bite and have decided not to flinch from. Brent was already speaking again, the pen moving over the parchment in his hand. "Mira of the Lowfield District," he announced, "presented under petition. As noted, the council has determined—" "I heard what the council determined," she said. It was quiet, not rude, quiet. The voice of a person who is not making a scene, but is also not pretending she did not hear. Brent blinked. The pen stopped. "I heard what the council determined," she said again, with the same level tone. "Before I came through that door. I came through the door anyway, because Elder Corin asked me to, and I do not leave things undone because they are difficult." No one in the hall spoke. Brent recovered first, which was to his credit. "As the council has noted," he continued, more carefully, "the petition is acknowledged. The ceremony proceeds." He made a mark on his parchment. "The result of this presentation is, however, noted in advance as crossed," she said, and she was looking at the parchment, not at him. Her voice was still quiet. "You may say the word. I know it." There was a silence that had texture to it, the kind that comes when a room full of people suddenly becomes uncertain of the shape of what they are watching. Brent said, "Crossed," and made the mark. She dipped her head. It was not a bow. It was the acknowledgement of someone who accepts a result without agreeing to it. She turned toward the south door. That was when I felt it. Not a sound, not a surge. Nothing like what the old stories described, the wolf howling, the mark blazing in a burst, the whole room knowing at once. It was quieter than that, and more absolute, the way a compass settles. The way your own heartbeat sounds when the room goes silent and you were not aware, until this moment, that you had been listening for it. My wolf, who had spent 11 years lying in my chest like a stone in cold water, stood up. Not a step toward the door, not yet. He stood, and his attention moved to the woman with the gray-blue dress and the level chin, who was walking across the choosing hall, with her name already crossed from the rolls, and he was certain in the way that wolves are certain, which is not thought, but fact. She reached the south door. She set her hand to the iron ring. The mark blazed. It came up gold on her wrist, not the wrist on the door ring, the other one, the left, which she had been holding at her side. She felt it before she saw it, I could tell, because her step stopped first and her eyes came down a moment after. The light was unmistakable, warm, certain gold, the old mark of the fated bond, which I had been told in childhood always looked like sunrise, and which, in truth, looked like recognition, like something arriving that was never gone, only late. The hall went still. Mira looked at her wrist for 2 full seconds. Then she looked up. Not at the council, at me. I was already standing. I did not remember deciding to stand, but I was standing, and my wolf was steady in my chest in a way that was different from stillness. Not the stillness of absence, but the stillness of completion. Everything quiet, because there is finally nothing missing. The mark, said someone behind me. A witness, not the council. Someone with no official position, and therefore no reason to be careful about what they said. Brent's pen had stopped entirely. I could see him calculating. The parchment was in his hand with her name crossed. I stepped down from the north end of the hall. The room did not part for me. It simply was not in my way, which is a different thing, and says something about the nature of a room that has just understood what it is witnessing. I walked the length of the choosing hall, past the 11 women who had preceded her and who were still present at the sides of the room, past the council bench, where 3 of the 4 members were very still, past the candles in their iron stands, and I stopped in front of her. She had not moved from the south door. She was still holding her left wrist with her right hand, not hiding the mark, I realized, but steadying herself, the quiet physical gesture of a person who is absorbing something large without performing the absorption for an audience. Her chin was still level. Her eyes were on mine. It seems, she said, that the council's reservation did not carry. My wolf exhaled something in my chest that I did not have a word for. Warmth, perhaps, but warmer than warmth. The recognition behind the ribs of a thing you did not know you were waiting for, settling into the exact space it was always meant to fill. No, I said, it did not. I wasn't sure, she said, whether you would cross the room or whether you would let Brent make the entry in the parchment and proceed to the next business. I had not considered the second option. My wolf had not permitted it. I crossed the room, I said. You did, she said. There was something in the way she said it. Matter of fact, the same level tone she had used with Brent, the same tone she would use to describe any true thing, that made my chest steady in a way it had never been steady in 11 years of waiting. She was not performing gratitude. She was not performing surprise. She was looking at me the same way she had looked at the council. Clearly, without flinching, with the particular composure of someone who decided a long time ago not to let what other people expected from her become what she expected from herself. I said, I am going to ask you to stay. She looked at the crossed entry on Brent's parchment, then at me. I am not a woman who can be managed, she said. I know, I said. I watched the last 6 minutes. The council will have reservations. They have reservations about everything. It has not yet stopped the world. The left corner of her mouth shifted. Not a smile yet, the consideration of one. That is a reasonable answer, she said. I turned to face the hall. Brent was watching me over his parchment, and the 3 other council members were watching him, the way people watch the person they believe to be the authority, when the authority is about to say something none of them have prepared for. The assembled witnesses, 40 or so, the family members, the elders, the record keepers, were motionless and quiet. Her name, I said, at the volume that carries across stone, is not crossed. Brent's pen moved to the parchment. I watched him make the mark, a stroke through the crossing, the old symbol of restoration, which he had certainly never used before in 23 years, and which he found with the steadiness of a man who understands, in this moment, that the authority is not behind him. Mira of the Lowfield district, I said, is Luna of Verendal. The hall did not erupt. It was quieter than that, the way the conclusion of something long deferred is often quieter than people expect. A release, rather than a burst. I heard someone exhale. I heard Elder Corin, at the back of the assembly, make a sound that was not quite words. The council members were very still. Brent finished the entry in the parchment and set the pen down. I turned back to her. She had been watching the room while I spoke, and I thought I understood why. She had walked into this hall knowing the verdict, and she had needed to see the verdict change, not just for herself, but in the faces of the people who had delivered it. Not for vengeance. Her expression held nothing of that. For fact. She was a woman who required that the true thing be true in the open, not just in her own estimation. Now she looked at me again. I held out my hand. She looked at it for a moment, the same composure, the same level regard, the same quality of someone making a decision that is already made, and is only now being confirmed. Then she set her hand in mine. Her fingers were steady. Her wrist, where the mark still glowed a fading gold, was warm against my palm. You said you do not leave things undone because they are difficult, I said. That is correct, she said. Good, I said. I intend to give you a great many difficult things. She looked at me, still calm, still level, and the left corner of her mouth did what it had been considering since I crossed the room. Then I imagine, she said, that we will get along. The candles burned. The council made their entries. Elder Corin was crying quietly in the manner of elderly people who have been right about something for a very long time and are not going to make a scene about the satisfaction of it, but cannot quite contain it either. The Hall of Verendal, which had seen 18 choosings, and which had listened to a council declare a woman unmarriageable not an hour past, was still in the particular way of a place that has witnessed something it knows it will be describing for the rest of its life. My wolf was quiet in my chest in a way that was not absence. It was the quiet of a thing that has found what it came for and has no further business with urgency. She did not let go of my hand. I thought, later, that this was the truest thing about her. She did not beg for the hand, and she did not release it either. She held it with the same steady certainty with which she had walked through a door that everyone told her would close in her face. It had not closed. Nothing, I would learn, ever quite managed to close in front of Mira of Verendal. I had sat through 17 choosings, wondering what the bond would feel like when it finally came. It felt like watching someone walk through a door they were told would stop them, and not slow down, and find that the door had given way. It felt like knowing, the moment you see it happen, that it was always going to happen exactly that way. It felt like the end of a long patience, and the beginning of something I did not yet have words for, and my wolf settled into the warmth of it, as if he had been holding the shape of her for 11 years, and was only now allowed to exhale. She held my hand, and not a single thing in Varendal, from that evening forward, had the nerve to suggest that anyone could stop her.